Welcome to Ransdell Chapel on the campus of Campbellsville University. This facility was completed in 2007 under the direction of Dr. Michael Carter, University President. It seats nearly 800 people and is used for chapel, convocation, musical concerts involving large ensembles, and other special occasions as needed. It boasts two keyboard instruments of significance, a concert grand Bechstein piano and the historic 1894 Farrand Votey Pipe Organ. Let's go inside and take a look at the organ. We're now inside Ransdell Chapel looking at the organ console, or the playing desk, if you will. As you obviously see, there are three keyboards. There's also a pedal board. We'll take a look at that momentarily. But the three keyboards represent three different divisions. And actually, it's a misnomer to say that it's just one organ, because it's really three organs. And to be more technically correct, four, counting the pedals. The top manual is the swell. The swell is often used for solo stops, for reinforcement of foundational kinds of sounds. On this particular organ, it features an oboe, a trumpet, lots of strings, regular flutes, and foundational stops. The middle manual is called the grate, and the grate is indeed the foundation of all the organ pipes. It's used especially for hymn singing or choral singing, and as the backbone, you might say, of major compositions which might be performed in recital. The lower manual, or keyboard, is known as the choir. And the choir functions a little bit like the swell in that it has solo stops. On this particular instrument, it has a crumb horn, it has some of the mixtures on it, the nazar, the tierce, strings, and flutes as well. It's possible to combine all of these by using couplers, which you see here. We can, for example, transfer the sound from the swell to the grate, or the swell to the choir. And the choir can go to the grate. Or we can put both the swell and the choir to the grate for full organ sound. On festive occasions, I use all three manuals as the backbone for hymn singing. And in particular, on our Christmas tapestry program, I have been known to play full organ, and the folks were singing their carols so strongly that I could barely hear myself. And it makes quite a sound, I might add. 51 ranks in all for this organ. And it also features, which we can't see at the moment, a trumpet en chamade, which is in the rear of the auditorium, and a cymbal stern. Both of those were gifts which were given. So this organ console functions as the working desk for the organist. The little white buttons that you see underneath the keyboards are called pistons, and they're used to combine the different stops and the different sounds that you might get from using the organ in its different capacities. In many ways, the organ has been called an orchestra, or an orchestra in one, if you will, because of the coloristic qualities which it has. In addition, the pedal stops, or rather the pedals, I should say, are on this organ covering 2.5 octaves from the G above middle C down to 2 octaves below C. So in fact, they are duplicating this area from here to here. On a historic organ that may not go quite as far high and may stop at C or D. Campbellsville University also has a small one-manual mechanical organ, pipe organ, made by the Pompage firm in 1875. And that organ only goes to a D in the pedal. It has 10 ranks. A rank, by the way, is the set of pipes that goes with each one of the stops which you see here. Well, from here, let's go up into the organ loft and see what the pipes look like. We're now going up into the organ loft above the stage at Ransdell Chapel, and a rather spacious organ loft which the technicians enjoy working in a great deal. We're looking now at the moment at one of the largest sets of pipes in the organ. It is a sub-bourdon, and it's not possible to get them all in one shot, but you can get a sense of the magnitude of these. The tallest are 16 feet, and the smallest are going to be actually not within sight. They're in another location, but considerably shorter, as you might imagine. An organ functions by sense of air, and the air comes, in this case, from a blower that's behind the door in the distance here of the scene. The blower carries the air through these channels or tubes that you can see here, these gray tubings, and they convey air all through the organ in such a way that that it can fill up the billows being this right here, which allows the contraction and the expansion of air to be pushed back and forth throughout the instrument. The whole principle of the organ is even mentioned in Genesis in the early chapters of the Old Testament, surprisingly enough. And an organ can exist in many ways, including a mouth organ or panpipes. But the ones with a keyboard came along quite a bit later, as you can imagine, from the time of antiquity. Let's travel on around here for just a moment, and we come to the section which has most of the reed stops in it. And these reed stops, this particular group, functions from the pedals. It includes a clarion, the small pipes that you see there in the distance, and then the trumpet, a contra trombone, and a regular trombone. The contra trombone is some 32 feet, and although it's not completely seen here, the 16 foot is the tallest with an extension added onto it. It makes quite a sound, and of course would be used on very festive kinds of occasions or whenever you might be headed toward fortissimo in volume. Two of the divisions of the organ are situated in boxes, rather large rooms, you might say here at that. These boxes have shutters on them, which you can see in the distance here with the brown shades, which can be opened and closed to increase the volume or decrease it as well, crescendo and decrescendo. A variety of pipes are housed here in the swell. You can see that this pipe right in front of us has a cap onto it. The sound comes out from the side, and it is tuned by this roll-up device right here. But other pipes are tuned in different ways, such as this one here, which can be raised and lowered, the silver-looking design. Some pipes are quite small, and as you can see here, very small at times. Some of our smallest pipes are no bigger than a pencil altogether. The reed stops often are in conical shape, and here you have the oboe. As you look at it, you will see that there's a little lever at the bottom that can go up and down for tuning purposes. There's a reed below it, and that reed is what gives it the vibrating sound that becomes convincing. In this case for the oboe, and then here with slightly different design for the trumpet. Another set of wooden pipes can be found here in the swell division. There's quite a combination all the way around. Let's go over now and take a look at one of the oldest set of pipes in the organ. We're now in front of one of the oldest group of pipes, the cello, which is played from the pedals on this organ. These pipes date from at least the 1890s, if not even earlier. The original organ, the Farrand Votey, was completed, I should say, in 1894 for Christ Church Cathedral in downtown Nashville. When they renovated their sanctuary in the early 21st century, they decided to replace the organ and relocate it to the balcony. This particular instrument was crowded in like sardines, if you will, behind the choir. And the technicians, well, they didn't enjoy working there because you couldn't turn around without bumping something and knocking another pipe out of tune or out of order or something or another. So once they came here to Ransdell and had a gracious amount of space, for which we're ever thankful, it made a lot of difference as well. Let's walk around along the hallway here now, and we are looking at the shutters for the swell, and there you can see just a little glimpse of the pipes as well. And then we'll pass by those reeds that we looked at, the clear lawn here. You would hardly think that this little pipe here could make as much sound as it would make. We're now in the division which would be called the grate, and here's a principal set of pipes, 16 feet, so tall that they had to be curled at the top for the ceiling. This is just one little setting here for the entire unit. This is the trumpet stop. It functions just like those reeds which we saw a few moments ago as well. Here's another set of bellows which conduct the air and the passage work. And as you can see, some of these pipes reach well on up into the sky, and some of these, in particular, this one directly in front of us, is among the oldest in the organ. Lastly, let's take just a quick look at the shaft. Lastly, for the grate, that is, the smallest pipes in this organ. Here is probably the smallest right here. Don't do this unless you are an organ technician or you have a good sense of how to handle these. Tiny, tiny, but it makes a piercing sound. And one can be playing full organ on this instrument without the shaft, add it on, and it's like adding the piccolo to an orchestra. Now, lastly, here is some of the choir. You see it too is in a box and regulates loud and soft. We have the copper pipes there, which are for the crumb horn to replicate that instrument. I won't take you inside it, but I will take you down below it, which brings us to our last stop, the chimes. The chimes were a later addition, as much of these that I've shown you has been. These date from the 1950s, and in organ literature, you don't have a lot of call for chimes, but yet they are useful in many different ways and occasions. So there you have it, a little touch of the organ at Ransdell Chapel, an instrument which we're proud of and which we're delighted to have at our disposal for special programs. Thank you for joining me on this occasion, and I wish you well. And don't forget, explore more organs. They're all slightly different in many ways. All the best to you.